This week's guest is presented to you by Bertarelli Cutlery. Marco Bertarelli at Bertarelli Cutlery has been in the knife sharpening business for decades. It's a family-owned business straight from the mother country of Italy. Marco is a dear friend, and they've been a partner with Illinois Recovery Center and offering second chance jobs for folks that are leaving treatment and looking for work. Please check them out at bertarellico.com. That's BERTARELLICO.com. And you can always find them and their retail store at 1927 Marconi Avenue on the Hill in St. Louis, Missouri. bertarellicutlery.com.
I'll react if I had to. Put some things in the past too, and don't let them distract you, but react if you have to. I'll react if I had to. Put some things in the past too, and don't let them distract you, but react if you have to. React if you have to, Don't know the time, just know that I'm, one of a kind, What's on your mind, What hard to find, Beautiful mind, Still in my prime, Just know that I'm here.
What's up, everybody? Pontiffs Anonymous, episode
17.
17.
Yeah. You put 16 on the calendar invite.
Did I?
Yeah.
I
You
fucked
did.
that up. 17.
Edge of 17.
What I'd give to be 17. I mean, I was up to no good, but it was kind of hot. Well, at least I thought it was.
Oh my God.
Sorry.
I don't want to even picture that.
I got to be careful because this guest is very special. And I don't mean this in a condescending way, but to me, she's a delicate flower that I cannot step on. She exemplifies empathy, the words that Jakob makes fun of, empathy and peace and love and Jesus, beauty.
Any of those?
I don't think he's made fun of the word Jesus.
He better not have. That's my fucking boy. Victory, is it Palmisano-Bruckner? Bruckner-Palmisano? How do we do that?
Palmisano-Bruckner.
The hyphenated, see what I mean? That's pretty That's pretty loud.
Yeah.
Right, Jakob?
It is.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, it is.
Victory's really a sister to me. She is my sweet wife's best soul sister friend in the world.
Aw, I love Ashley. Trying to get back to being her favorite on this show.
Not today.
Jakob said on a recent episode that Ashley looks 5 years younger than me, and Ashley really took to that comment. Vic.
Yeah.
And Jeff. All right, take it easy.
I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to argue with that.
Victory was in our wedding. Victory is from beautiful Los Angeles, California, where Ashley is from, and they went to college together at the very run down, beaten up campus at Pepperdine in Malibu.
I've heard terrible things.
Right. So Vic, first question, Pamela Anderson. Let's talk. She ran the campus quite a bit at Pepperdine, I hear. Did you know that? Ashley told me that.
Wow. I never, ever heard that. I grew up with Pamela Anderson's stunt double. So.
Oh, really? I bet she's
a dear family friend to this day. Yeah. So that's
really
more
wow.
association with good old Pam.
I just learned something.
I love, by the way, I love Pam. She has made
yeah.
She's had a comeback. She's awesome.
I'm quite the fan of her, and I'm sure I would be equally a fan of her stunt double. I didn't know this, and we're going to have to make an intro at some point. Okay?
Absolutely. You got it. Her name is
That's
Julie.
incredible. Yeah. Okay, Julie.
Love it.
So this is going to be fun because, well, it's going to be fun. It's going to be hard. Victory is, I mean, I can't say enough amazing things about her and her family I've gotten to know since knowing Ashley. I think I might have been a acquired taste for Ashley's dear friends. Yeah, they didn't know quite what to make of myself Me and Ashley are very different in certain ways,
You
but
don't say.
we do have some. When you really peel back the onion, I think there's a couple similarities. But
Yes.
like Ashley doesn't say the word fuck a lot, or really ever. I think they saw some things I was like posting on social media, which was, I'm not like going on like drunk rants anyway, because they know me sober.
Yeah.
But there was a couple, just some people think, oh wow, that's Salt and Pepper, Ashley and Chris.
Yeah.
And I think Victory is one of those people. But I won you over pretty quickly, I think.
Oh yeah, it's true. I definitely wasn't sure what to make of you at first, but
Yeah.
to know you.
Well, in my defense, Ashley dated some fucking scumbags. And I'd like to just berate all of them here on the show.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to stoop to that level.
Really, really agree. Yeah. They're not worth our time to talk about, but
she is so excited that you're
Found a good
and very nervous that you're coming on.
Oh, that's funny.
I didn't know if she knew I was coming or not.
She knows.
I'm so honored to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited for your podcast and everything you're doing, and I'm really happy to be here having this conversation.
Well, it's awesome. It's going to be fun, lighthearted, and then we'll talk about some pretty important, probably hard stuff for you that you've been recently going through. But you inspire me. I mean, you've been in, this is pretty funny. So you haven't met Jakob. Jacob's our executive director out here at Illinois Recovery Center.
Okay.
And co-host. Jakob,
Hi, Jakob.
talk about an acquired taste. Fuck. But Jakob, I was like, so do you guys know, have I told you anything about Victory? And Jacob's like, I chat GPT'd her. She's like Hollywood. Like,
Yeah.
she's
Oh
like
my
worked for all the Hollywood. So did you know that you're,
I have never chat GPT'd myself. So
what all did
funny.
it say?
I
Like,
don't know what they have to say about me.
I wish I remembered now.
like,
Put on the
it
spot,
shows,
but-
like, it says like you've done all the work for Marvel. I mean, you've worked in the quote unquote business your whole
I've
career.
grown up. Yes, I grew up in
Yeah.
the business. My dad was a stuntman and
Wow.
a director and a stunt coordinator. So I grew up on movie sets all over the world my whole life.
Pretty cool, huh?
Who's your most famous friend?
That's fair. Good
Who's my
question,
most
Jeff.
famous friend?
Pamela Anderson's stunt double.
Yes.
Yeah,
Or
there
Pam
you go.
herself.
Yeah.
There you go. We'll stick with Julie.
There you go.
Amazing.
I don't
But
have that deleted.
it
I was
was
embarrassed.
a wild way to grow up. But I didn't know how wild it was until I was a little older. Because when
Sure.
you're little, that's normal life.
Well, so when we first met, I think you were working. Were you working for a podcast?
It's hard. What was I doing then? When did we met? When did we met?
16, I think. 16 or 17.
I think at that point I was working at NBC Universal at that point.
Just
but
that.
soon
Okay.
after, yeah,
Ever heard of them?
I've heard of them.
soon after that, I did start working with a podcast. Yeah, that's when my podcasting days began.
And because let's nerd out a little bit on this podcast shit because
Yeah.
people that listen care about it. What was the podcast and how did that come about?
Sure. The podcast was called The Liturgists. And
I've heard of that podcast.
I bet you have.
You know that podcast?
Yeah.
It was a
Did
podcast.
it like Brene Brown?
Brene may be mentioned.
I do love me
don't-
some Brene.
Yeah, it's for people who are deconstructing from evangelical.
Michael Gunger and his wife. Was his wife on that? Lisa,
Yes,
right?
Yeah,
Lisa.
sometimes Lisa. Yeah,
Really?
So do you know Michael?
I do.
Oh my God.
Are you fanboying right now?
Yeah, I'm fanboying.
That's so funny.
Do you know the song "Beautiful Things" that we used to sing in church?
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
his
Yeah.
song.
That's a really good, I always thought that, oh shit.
Yeah.
It's in my head now.
Yeah.
I'll spare you.
Yeah, he's an amazing musician.
So
So I saw him
deconstructing-
at Acquire the Fire, and he has a lot to say about Acquire the Fire.
I don't know Acquire the Fire, but
Oh, look it up.
okay.
Is it
Okay.
what?
Acquire the Fire was a very how can I say it? I think it was called youth Youth Mania or something, Teen Mania or something. And he was a worship leader for it, but it was super conservative, not just conservative, like
Culty?
Sure. So let's throw out the word conservative. It's not even fair. Culty.
Got it.
Yeah, and it got really weird in Teen Mania, and they had these camps, and
that sounds like a lot of children touching, if you ask me.
I don't think it was that, but yeah, it was just spiritual abuse.
Yeah.
Well, I mean so that's what that liturgist was about. You said deconstruct. You said a very sweet.
I found it as a person who is deconstructing from the evangelical faith tradition that I grew up in. I found the podcast as a fan and was listening to it with a lot of friends of mine. And then as it happens in LA, someone that I know was like, hey, I was talking to the liturgist guys and they need a producer. And I was like, oh, I love that podcast. I'd love to meet with them. So that's how I started working with them.
That's a cool, it just sounds like a cool job for sure.
Yes, it is cool. And it was a subject that at the time was very present for me.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And so it was really cool to work on that. Yeah. For a couple months.
We see a lot of, Ash now working for our church has groups for church trauma, people that have been fucked over by.
Unfortunately, there is a lot of it in this world. People who've had church trauma, like you mentioned, spiritual abuse. It's sadly more common than not. So,
yeah, that douchebag at the old church you used to work for, Jeff, who he's closeted. I just wish people would get punched in their face more. Especially with people that bully in the name of Jesus. There's nobody I want to beat the shit out of more than those pussies. Pardon my French again, Victory.
Pardon.
Thank you. I dropped the first time I met
before, so
first time I met Victory, I dropped a C-bomb and I said to her, I go, oh, damn, Ashley doesn't really like when I say that. Victory's just in her sweet little way. I was like, yeah, most women don't love that word.
Yeah, that's not a great. I don't hear it very often except for the Bill Burr podcast. It's always there.
They still use a pondophism in her family, in Victory's family. They just recently came to visit, and her sweet sister, I guess, had a newborn and was getting ready to feed the newborn. And I said, "Don't mind me, flop a titty out," I guess, and that's now a saying in
yes, it is part of the Palmisano family lore now. We love to repeat that phrase.
We're gonna create a social media graphic of just that quote.
You got it.
Yeah.
Pop a titty out, Chris Pondoff.
Yeah, no problem. It's actually flop.
Yeah,
flop.
Right.
Flop a titty out. Yeah.
Flop, there we go.
So what also I find fascinating is from St. Louis. When I think of Hollywood, I think of a lot of scummy fucking people. And there couldn't be a more opposite human being that I've ever met in Victory. So is there any truth to that you've probably, is there some nasty people and
oh my gosh, yes.
How do you, the stereotype
is true. Yeah.
And you were such a, you just completely shatter that stereotype and have had longevity in a career that, in an industry that has not been kind to people, women,
Yeah. The cool thing is that things are starting to change. Does not mean there is still not a lot of douchebags out there, a lot of scumbags, but it's starting to change and it's cool.
Well, that's good.
But you have to know too, my dad was in Hollywood. My mom was a born again Pentecostal minister. So wow. I was either in church or I was on a movie set.
Nice.
So I had a very strong influence of, a lot of biblical morality and doctrine and stuff like that. So even though I don't practice that same faith tradition anymore, I think a lot of kind of the guiding principles stayed with me and I tried to embody those. Yeah, I try.
I'd say you do a pretty good job. Jeff, you'll like this. So Victor, as I coined the phrase flop a titty out, she coined a phrase to me that her and Ashley were talking once. And, there's a lot of songs on the Joy, the 99.1
Christian radio.
Yeah, and some big churches like will play the music, and Victory's like, she's a little over the Jesus is my boyfriend music.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
yeah.
So
Oh.
her and I, like, that's
Yeah.
they like my phrase. I like their phrase.
Yeah. That's great.
So we went from the podcast to, and we'll jump around here because we're not professionals and kind of clusterfucks as human beings. So you then went into business as an entrepreneur, is how I look at it. Is that accurate?
Yes, that is accurate. In 2020, of all years, in the middle of the start of a pandemic, I co-founded a media company with one of the guys from the Liturgist. Actually, two people that I met at the Liturgist, but one was one of the co-hosts. We created a media company, and it's been a wild ride, but it's been really cool and really fun. And one of the projects that, Chris, you are very familiar with, I should back up and say we did some work with Marvel, and kind of from our learnings from that whole experience, we created our own IP, which is what Chris is familiar with. It's one of our projects. And so we have a game that we've been working on that lives within that world. And so that's one of the things we've been working on, and it's been really, really cool. But
tell the four listeners,
is not for the faint of heart.
Right. But what I feel that we saw each other in that regard when you were in town a couple weeks ago.
Truly, Chris, truly, yes.
What a gift it was. Nobody spring breaks to St. Louis, but Victory and her husband and their 2-year-old Viola.
I'm like, we're going out of town for spring break, and people are like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, St. Louis, Missouri.
For me, it was a God thing. I was right in the middle of probably one of the hardest weeks of my life professionally, and they were able to detach me from that as much as possible. So we went to a baseball game. Viola got to meet Fred Bird, and we
still
ate
talk
a lot
about it daily.
And me and her husband, I am a big fan of, also works in the industry. He's currently writing my script that we're working on. We're going to call it The Sopranos Meets This Is Us. So a lot of Sopranos and with like that time continuum. And then, we can't get to the NC-17, but we want to skirt it. Like, we got to be real close, because that'll kill from what I've learned from these guys on media. You got to stay in the R range, but we got to have some TNA. We got to have some blood and guts. You know what I mean? Anyway, it's not about me. I love Daniel, diehard Braves fan, and it was so great to see them when they came in town. So we were talking about some of the struggles of being an entrepreneur, and Jakob is familiar. I've told Jakob a little bit about the game. You say IP. Can you tell the four people that listen to us what that means, stands for?
Yes, IP stands for intellectual property, which is a Hollywood word, I guess, for sort of it's a very big world to the scale and detail of like a Lord of the Rings or a Star Wars. So you could make any number of media properties out of the, in quotes, for those who aren't watching but listening, IP. And in our case, we're starting with a game. So should that be as successful as we know it can be, then it could, transition into a television show, a video game, a film. So that's why it's kind of called an IP, because it's a very, very detailed idea that creates a vast world with an ancient history, with a language, 3,000 word language, with different species. So it's extremely detailed. And I don't know.
IP is like a way to, I always look at it as a way to protect yourself too because you own it. And
yes, it's totally ours. It's completely original.
Right.
Yeah.
And Jacob's a big gaming nerd. So that's why I was telling him about this. And he's asked about it. So we got to get him, we'll get him like a tabletop role playing game.
Right. I remember you a while ago.
We want to get some sets here for for Detoxing.
Going
People
to.
will play
We're
it.
going,
Yeah.
Yes. You came up in a conversation just today, actually.
Oh, that's scary. So it's really cool. I remember you did a commercial for the Super Bowl. Ironically, I think it was a weed commercial that they produced that aired a couple Super Bowls ago. And, you know, St. Louis is about as far from Hollywood as you can get. They did do Up in the Air here in St. Louis, a movie with George Clooney.
I love that movie.
And, I love Anna Kendrick, but the other girl's pretty hot too. Vera something.
Yeah.
But great film. That was filmed here. That's about it. There was a couple scenes from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles that were filmed here.
Right.
I'm sorry, you're forgetting Meet Me in St. Louis. One of the best musicals of all
here?
time.
I am very limited in the knowledge of musicals. I do know, I have heard of that one, sure.
Yeah, it's one that is very near and dear to my heart. When Ashley told me we could go like see the different houses where it was filmed, I was like, get out of town.
Oh, nice.
She took
See that?
me.
That's incredible.
This was pre you in her life.
Okay, I was going to say, I don't remember. Thanks for not including me on that tour.
We
should
were doing
vacation
all
at St.
kinds of bar hopping, wine tasting, and then we just did a little excursion to see some of the old Victorian homes.
These girls were wild in college. That's from what I heard. They really slayed some mission trips. Like, they were fucking wild.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, boy.
I was probably much more wild than Ashley ever was, but that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, sure. I can believe it. I mean, that's a pretty low bar if you're comparing yourself to. I got in trouble the other day because on one of the podcast episodes we mentioned Ashley's arousal template.
I caught wind of that.
Mm-hmm.
Poor Ash.
I know. That's an often uttered phrase. But when somebody you know produces a commercial that's on the Super Bowl and you're from St. Louis, you're like, that's fucking big time.
Yeah, no
it
kidding.
is big time. The main reason that Victory and I had some deep conversations connected on is regarding her father, and you know, we are, as of, was it been 2 years?
Less than 2 years. It's been a year and a half.
Year and a half.
He passed away.
Victory had the unfortunate honor of joining the Dead Dads Club.
Yes.
It's how Ashley and I bonded. Like these church elder women were trying to, it took every miracle in the world to get the two of us together, or her with me. They connected us because we both had lost our fathers, and it just changes your life forever. So when Victory, I mean, he was sick towards the end, and feel connected to her in two ways. She lost her dad, and he was it a lifelong struggling with alcoholism, a lifelong struggle, would you say?
Yes. I think as I reflect and as I continue to learn more and more about addiction, I look back and I can see that there was something going on long before I realized, long before his life became unmanageable. He was so high functioning. So it wasn't until the last decade that it was like, whoa, he has a problem. But looking back, I can clearly see it, but he was really good at hiding it.
When you look back and there's something that hits you, and I don't know if it's a light that comes on or just you're able to kind of connect that dot and understand it more, does that, like, how does that, not to be a therapist, but how does that make you feel when you connect that dot? Does it?
It's really helped me. I mean, I did a lot of, when my dad was alive, it was a lot of surviving the relationship, and just coping through it. But after he died, I just became very ravenous for every bit of information I could get about addiction. And so I actually, among the many things that I read and listened to, was this woman's memoir. I can't think of the name right now. For some reason, is it Chelsea Handler's Wishful Drinking? No, that is Carrie Fisher. If you have not seen the one woman show Wishful Drinking, I highly recommend it.
She just chef kissed.
Yeah.
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Check it out.
Chelsea Handler is something funny about vodka. But anyways, this is from the memoir. And she just takes you through the mindset of an alcoholic. And it gave me a lot of compassion. It just really helped distance his addiction from me, because it's hard to not feel like it's a rejection of me, but I know that it's not. And that's when I'm in my most like intellectual brain. When I'm in my feelings, I can totally ugly cry about it. Because it's your dad, when your dad, for whatever the reason is, when your dad chooses alcohol over his family, it's very hard to understand that, but on a day-to-day basis, I feel like I mostly approach it with compassion. And sometimes I'm just like, fuck you.
Wow. Good for you.
So, yeah. We just passed his birthday. He would have been 76, and all day on May 1st and all day on his birthday, I was just like, fuck you. Fuck you all day. Yeah. And then, but
Good
other
for
days,
you,
weirdly,
Victory.
other days I'm just like,
I don't think I've ever heard you say fuck before.
I mean, I don't say it a lot, and I
So
don't.
it makes it more impactful.
Yeah, I don't externalize my my anger towards him very often, but it's there for sure. It's there.
And very, very valid, Jacob.
Yeah.
That's a clinical term.
Is it Jeff Chris?
Thanks. So I met him once, and
At our wedding.
Yeah. And the phrase "larger than life" that would be the first thing that comes to mind from somebody that's met him once.
Yeah.
And not even knowing, I didn't even know that he was this like kind of crusader in his industry that you shared now after the fact that he was this longtime stunt double, right? And was fighting for the rights of, like, weren't they typically kind of shit on in Hollywood? Is that, why don't you, I'll let you.
There were several avenues. He started out as a stuntman, so he was crashing cars and being lit on fire and jumping off of tall buildings and all of the things. And then as he got, a little older, he started doing more coordinating, which is like coordinating fight scenes, car chases, all of that stuff. And then he finally moved into directing. And so as he got more power and influence in the industry, he started using that to work with the Screen Actors Guild, to implement a lot of safety protocols. He was highly, highly, highly concerned with safety. I'm actually named after his best friend, Victor, who died doing a stunt.
No shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And in honor of his best friend, they named their first child after him. So he became very concerned with safety and did a lot to ensure the safety of stunt people, just to kind of have these regulations in place. And then he also wanted recognition for the stunt community at the Academy Awards. And I don't expect that y'all follow what's happening in Hollywood on a regular basis, but literally there was an announcement like a month or 6 weeks ago that after probably 20, 30 years of campaigning, which my dad was at the forefront of for most of those years, the Academy finally just announced that they're creating a category to honor stunt coordinators at the awards, which, in light of what's happening in our world is so like, whatever, it's neither here nor there. But for people in the industry who know that, stunt performers and coordinators and directors are part of, the storytelling, it was a very big deal. And when I heard the news, I said, fuck you for you for missing this exciting announcement. We could have gone out and, celebrated.
I think more than hope, I think it's got to be a fact that he is celebrating that announcement and his whole self, not sick, without the disease.
I think that,
gotta
but then
be,
I'm
right?
just like, wherever he is, wherever this, if for me, I do believe in, my beliefs have changed a lot since I was a small child. So I don't believe in heaven and hell, but I do believe that God is love, love is God. And so on some level, he has been taken up by love. And that, there is some form of consciousness, and I still have a relationship with him. I still connect with him. So part of me is like, yeah, wherever he's at and whatever form he's in, his eternal self is in, like, he's like, cool. And then I'm also like, if he is like in the cosmos and he can understand everything, like, he probably doesn't give two shits outside of like, cool, that's so cool. But like, he probably doesn't really care in a good way,
Okay.
It used to be such a part of his identity. And I just think he probably shed all that. I hope so.
Well, I guess it was 2 Academy Awards ago, right? In memoriam, how do I say it?
In memoriam.
In memoriam.
Oh yeah.
They showed his name and picture. Like I said, a guy from St. Louis. I'm like, I fucking know him.
Yeah.
But I instantly went to like, shit, man. And I think I remember talking to Ashley about it, because I had kind of Ashley had a front row seat and, being in the chair next to her.
Yeah.
Figuratively or literally, that I had a front row seat to a lot of your anguish and heartbreak over his alcoholism and all the, fucking the whole feelings wheel that comes with that. And, and your, I don't know your sister as well. I always call her that hot redhead because she's the thing for redheads.
She's fine with that. She's cool with that.
Yeah. But again, I need to be careful here. The first thing that like came to mind was I had to be really hard to was it like, how did you feel seeing that?
Such a mixture of, so hard to put into words. Like, of course, proud that, the most kind of prestigious awards within my industry would acknowledge him. And also angry, he could have lived a lot longer. He could have done a lot more. And so it was very bittersweet, more bitter than sweet, a little bit of sweet.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's because he had been pretty sick towards the end. Was it? And was it his liver, right?
He was diagnosed with liver failure, and 6 months later he was gone. The doctor was pretty clear that if he stopped drinking and he followed the prescribed treatments, he could have had many more years left, because the liver can really regenerate.
We've seen it.
Yeah. But he started drinking again. So, he knew what he was doing. It was a very, very, very slow suicide, essentially.
That and liver failure and going like that it's a horrible way to go too. Seen people that have their demise, and
I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy.
And you were his caretaker at the end, right?
Yeah.
You and
my sister and I, my little sister. We do have an older sister, but she lives far away and not as involved. And we were his caretakers. We did have, some nurses and things that were there, but he was pretty feisty. Well, he's a feisty person, but by the end,
I'm not picturing the most model patient.
No.
From what the stories I've heard, and
picture a fucking Bronco in a hospital bed telling them not to buck and not to drink. Like, yeah. So he was impossible to.
I mean, he made a living crashing cars and being lit on fire.
Well,
like,
we should go back just to give a little extra context. When he was 17, he volunteered for Vietnam, and he joined the Marine Corps and served 2 voluntary tours at 17 years old.
Oh boy.
Went back a second time, opted to.
Yeah, that's a special. That's fucking nuts. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah.
God.
So he's a former Marine Corps veteran, who was actually sent home at the end of the second year because he was. I mean, he didn't talk a lot about it, but I think he was like physically and mentally totally broken down. And he was just not I don't know what you call it because I don't know military terms, but it was like, okay, kid, you have to like take care of yourself. It wasn't like looked down upon. It was just like, you've seen too much. Like his best friend got his head blown off right next to him, among many other horrible tragedies. And so he just was like, and he only talked about it near the end and was just like, I was completely broken down. So he came back, and of course this is the 70s. There's no therapy. There's no understanding of post-traumatic stress disorder. And I think he thought he was going to be like heralded. And instead he was called a baby killer and spat on. And so he quickly like grew his hair out and started, acting and being like a hippie, doing drugs, drinking. So it started then when he got home at 19 from like, a very broken place. That's when the substance abuse began. So if you think of that person and then that person going into stunts, like his appetite for risk and just being on the edge, like constantly facing death. And his nickname was Lucky. They nicknamed him Lucky while he was overseas. And he's just one of those people that like in his entire career, he broke a rib.
God.
Oh my gosh.
And friends died. Their whole bodies have been broken, and he was just lucky. So I think then your brain is like, I can beat death. I thought he could.
Alec Baldwin just shot and killed someone on a movie set a year or 2 ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. I stand in the tiniest defense of Alec Baldwin. I feel really bad for him, not as a producer, but as an actor trying to do his thing. But yes, that is true.
So you could nerd out on like that the safety protocol that gun should have, I mean, what the fuck? Why was there a bullet in the gun?
Protocol that should be followed, and the
clearly
people
wasn't.
that were handling the arms were not following that protocol. Somebody dropped a ball big time.
God.
And obviously Alec Baldwin would not have shot the gun if he knew there was a real bullet in it. So I feel bad for him in that way. But as a producer, probably doing a shit job of making sure the set was safe.
And that's I mean, you are a producer. That's what people ask.
Yes.
By skill.
And I had a dad that's obsessed with safety my entire life. So
sure.
I'm very safety oriented in that way.
Did when you go back now and you hear about, I mean, just the fucking mountains of big T trauma that this guy experienced and tried to forget.
Yeah.
Does that help with your understanding of his self-medicating? Because what I hear is complete self-medication.
100%. Yes. And even in later years, when he would go on binges, I think somehow he was picking up language that he was learning. So he's like 72 years old being like, I have PTSD. And like, yeah, Dad, you do. But his solution to that was to knock back some vodka
Sure.
instead of go to therapy. But when you start abusing drugs and alcohol at the age of 17, and then you meet enormous success, money, wealth, money and wealth, power, influence, and you happen to be
dangerous combination,
dashingly handsome and charming. I think the best thing that could have happened to him was that he stayed a carpet layer and like just had a normal life.
I was thinking the things I have in common are drinking and doing drugs at 17, but I'm not wealthy, successful.
Mine, I'm dashingly handsome.
Yeah,
Is the one I have.
That's the one you
He just had this special combination that somehow insulated him from the consequences of, you know, I even hesitate to call it choices. They are choices, but
sure.
I just think something bigger than him was driving him that he truly was not in control of. He was just in control of everything else. I mean, he could command movie sets of hundreds of people. He
worked the room at your wedding like I've never seen before. I saw a lot of my old man in him. That's, I think, why I gravitated. He was this big, strapping guy with a rocks glass in his hand and shaking hands and kissing people on the foreheads like he fucking knew him their whole life.
Yeah.
Made me feel like I was his best friend, and I had a 30-second conversation.
That was my dad.
I just looked at his IMDb. He's done a lot. He's done a lot of amazing stuff, but the coolest thing, in my opinion, from my elder millennial heart, is he was a stunt pirate on the movie Hook.
No shit.
Yeah,
it's crazy. I didn't know.
Those were your friends like, "What are you doing today?" "Nothing. Want to come be a pirate?" "All right."
Do I get to drink the rum?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, seriously.
And listen, we know why. Jakob sees it every day here. We've all self-medicated, and we get it. We have compassion for that. This shit is fucking hard, man. And I cannot imagine what your old man went through. Your father, sorry. But then you did bring it up. There are choices, and unfortunately, when we choose and get hooked on that feeling of self-medicating, there's collateral damage, and it's usually the people that we love the most that are closest to us. So you've been, I mean, emotionally fucking brutalized by this disease, by your dad's disease, and that's what's got to be so complicated for you as a daughter of an alcoholic. And we hear that often and hear with people. I mean, we hear it from moms a lot with the children. That's probably the most, but
right.
I talked to a guy today. I had a meeting. It was a church meeting, and there was a guy at the church that was telling me about how his grandpa was a mean drunk and what his mom went through. It just by mentioning that, I had mentioned something about IRC, and that he opened it up. So there's so many people out here that have that can empathize and feel similar. I don't know, punching bag or lightning rod to the disease of a parent, father to a daughter, and how hard that is. And I don't know if it's something. I admire you learning, and like you said earlier about your intellectual brain, but you still have this whole heart and soul full of feelings.
Oh yeah.
And it's not linear, but it is. It sounds like it's helping you a little bit process your childhood and your, I guess, adult child life. Is that what it's called when you're an adult?
Yes, I am an adult child of an alcoholic.
There's actually a really good recovery program called that.
Yes.
Adult Children of Alcoholics. It's really good.
Have you heard of it at ACA?
I have. And I haven't been to those meetings. I've been to a lot of Al-Anon meetings.
Sure.
Their book is ginormous. It's like
the guy I know, the guy that we both mutually
Adult Children of Alcohol. I think it's called Adult Children of
yeah,
Alcohol.
that's what it's called.
Yeah.
The guy we mutually know, who's a big fan of it, has started meetings here in St. Louis because it was a big California thing. It started out there.
Most programs do.
A lot of us out here.
It's fucking crazy out there, isn't it? I always tell people that Ashley, I met her in the porn valley, and they don't believe me. Was it the San Fernando Valley? Is that
Chatsworth specifically? It's porn
okay,
Chatsworth.
Got it.
Yeah.
You ever produce any of those films?
Never did.
Okay.
Never did.
Victory was telling me last time she was in town that
She was a stunt coordinator.
to produce, she was producing a film, but it was a low budget movie, but she had part of it was she had to go into a strip club.
Oh, scouting strip clubs. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And she said that she lasted about 30 seconds and left like completely bawling her eyes out.
Oh,
No, I maintained professionalism. We did I scouted multiple. Yeah. And I saw some things while I was in there that I couldn't have dreamt up, and I maintained composure and got through it. And then when I got in the car, I just burst into tears, like so unprofessional. It was brutal. Yeah.
We should make that movie. I want to, let's finish
We'll
it.
go back. Yeah. We'll circle back to that. Yeah.
When you were growing up,
Yeah.
was your dad, I mean, did he get angry, drunk, or just like what were some of the behaviors you remember?
Again, this is looking back in retrospect, understanding more about the disease and thinking back. I mean, I knew how to make his vodka tonics from the time I was a little girl.
Mm-hmm.
And I would
trained.
Knew how much, how much ice to put in, how much vodka, soda, no lime. I remember being out with him because at the time, I don't want to totally date myself, but at that time there was a very big campaign against, just say no. And so I was in a lot of drunk driving, anti-drunk driving campaigns. And so I remember being out with him and just watching him knock back vodkas and feeling nervous as a kid, like, oh, we're driving home, but then kind of switching to like, well, actually my dad's Superman, so we're fine. Like he defies death every day for a living. So we're cool about this. And none of that really clicked for me until after he passed, and like, hey, that's kind of weird. You don't normally teach little kids how to make your cocktail. And so that I am getting to answer your question, but I say that to say,
get it.
We called him Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. He could be as sweet and tender as a little lamb. And then on a dime, he could turn and be very angry when you weren't expecting it. And now I look back and I'm like, oh, he was probably like trying not to drink as much when we were with him because we didn't see him very often. My parents were divorced. He was always on location. So he'd get us for a weekend, or maybe we'd go visit him on location for a week or two or something. So, but it was like, we weren't living day-to-day life together. So I'm sure when he was with us, he was trying to be a responsible parent and not indulge as much. And I know he was doing drugs too. So I bet he was like extra on edge because he was jonesing.
Sure.
I didn't put any of that together until after he died because it was always so confusing. But yes, Chris, there were many times where he would just literally, like all of a sudden he would be raging and it would just be so confusing and so scary. I was scared of him.
That's interesting. I hate that. It breaks my heart, but I can empathize a little bit with what you're saying because especially with, my old man, I mean, he was picking us up from hockey practice and he'd have a road sody all the time. And never thought anything of it. He's invincible.
Right.
And there were times towards the end, and even when him and I would party, drink, and use together, that there would be these fucking drastic mood swings that would like, I mean, they're long lasting. I don't know. I have some PTSD myself from that you being in a great mood and then just something switching on a dime and, it like shocking your system. to
Yep.
a core, especially as a kid.
I
So that's
was a
interesting.
finely tuned weather vane. I could tell it by the way he said hello when he picked up the phone. I would know where if a storm was brewing, if it was unleashed. And I drank a lot with him as an adult because it'd be like, let's go drink because then he'll relax and
Sure.
he'll be fun. But let's not drink too much because then he doesn't get fun. But yeah, and again, like I was participating in a cycle that I didn't know I was participating in because me as a young person, I am very lucky. Somehow I did not get the gene because I, absolutely had my time of partying and all of that stuff. But I
heard about the stories in Florence.
That was actually pre my partying days.
Yeah.
I was still such a young, innocent thing then. But yeah, I just like alcohol just did not have that grip on me. It was like a night of drinking. The next day was like, that did not make me feel good. I'm not doing that again for a while. And it was just like, whatever.
Your body's stop sign worked.
Totally.
Jacob and I tend to drive right through that fucking thing.
Yeah.
What stops?
Well, it's
Right.
so interesting to me because I'm like, if he's feeling this shitty, how does he keep going? And I know like you just numb it with more alcohol, but that's like the last thing that I would want to do. So I find it so fascinating that and he comes from a long line of alcoholics. He is Irish through and through, even though he has an Italian last name. That's a whole other story, but his main bloodline is Irish. So
I have a little Irish in me, mostly Italian, and it's a problem.
Yeah.
Do you remember some hard conversations you had with him, even towards the end of trying to talk him out of his alcoholism? And I say that intentionally, that phrase, because I think a lot of people that when you're in it and you just don't get it, you're picking this over me? Why do you? I'm your dog. Yeah. I'm your dog. Did you have a lot of those conversations?
Yeah. Many leading up to getting him into rehab in 2020.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah. And then I knew
did go to treatment,
as soon as we went on lockdown, I was like, this is not going to go well with my dad's drinking. And so it totally ramped up because he was alone and isolated. And it got so bad that he called me in a panic and begged me to come over in the middle of the night because he thought he was going to die. And so I went and helped him detox for 48 hours, all the while begging him to let me take him to rehab facilities so that he was not doing it he needed to do it under medical supervision,
right? But
he refused. So I kind of made a decision in my mind that night. I'm like, I will do this once and I will never do this again. And so, I could literally feel, having been through a lot of therapy by that point, a lot of Al-Anon meetings, I'm like, I am literally damaging myself, or not me, but like the situation, like this is damaging me like right now, like so badly. But I'm like, he's my dad. I can't not do this, know? And so we got him to the point where he was clear-headed enough and, begged and begged and begged with all of the things, please, if not for you, for us, please, just grandchildren, just every tool in the book. And I think that he was genuinely scared he was going to die. And so he agreed to go into rehab. And he went to a 30-day program. And I'll never forget that day. My sister and I drove him to the rehab facility. It was a 30-day inpatient. And we dropped him off and we just, burst into tears because of the pressure of just like, okay, he will be there. Like someone someone else will help him and he won't die. And then like this really awful moment of like, but it's only 30 days. And like, we're working with 50 plus years here.
Yeah.
Like, I can't convince him to stay for another 30 days. Again, remember, bucking Bronco.
Right.
And just like, he is going to have to get out of here and decide every day not to drink. And it was just so overwhelming for me that I was just like, one day at a time, like, I have to just take care of myself and recover from having just been through like the worst weekend of my life. And I would say it was probably 4 months after he got out of rehab that he started drinking again.
So he did the 30. Did he do any outpatient IOP stuff after?
Nope.
No.
And again, when I hear stories of people who, including you, Chris, decide to get sober, I'm just blown away, because I truly think, and I don't know if you disagree, because I do think it's a disease that was bigger than him, but I just think his pride was such, like, the idea of being sober and having to deal with 70 years of what he was trying to numb. It was just, he could not face it. He could not face it. And so it's just amazing to me when people are brave enough to be like, okay, I'm going to have to face myself and how dark and ugly this is, but I'm going to do it. It's just, it is a miracle to me.
Well, I feel that it's a God miracle thing, and that I'm one of the lucky ones. Personally, I also don't feel, as a human being, and hearing his story and as how much respect I have for veterans, Marines, and Vietnam Marines especially. He's lost an uncle who was a Marine in Vietnam. Could have been the guy standing next to your dad. He was killed instantly with the headshot, and like, there's no way I can kind of compare a day of my life to a day of theirs, and the trauma that they've endured and the sacrifices they made. But I do hear, because we've seen it go a lot of different ways here, I do hear, even if it was only 4 months, 5 months, including his 30-day inpatient stay, of warrior shit. I mean, that, I tell people when we do, it's often my opening prayer when we do the church service here on Saturday nights, that it's like the pleasure of my week to sit in a room of people that have made that choice that is so scary. And to your point, once they start coming out of the medically assisted treatment of detox and into residential, your feelings are they hit you like a freight train sometimes, and they're fighting them, and it's like, it's tangible fucking courage, and a way more courageous to me his rehab stay in 4 months than driving a stunt car. I'm not going to say it's more courageous than going to Vietnam twice, but it's
totally,
to me, like, and I don't know if he did it there. Part of me, and this is an opinion from knowing the story from a distance and caring about you, part of me thinks that he did it. I think he gave it his best shot for you and Carrie. I don't know your other sister, but I also know that that's not a sustainable way to be sober. You have to almost do it for yourself. You have to do it for yourself first. Yeah. Well, you do it for other people, it's not going to last, but I hope there's some peace in that.
Community.
True.
You have to do it in
100% true.
And to his small credit, we were in the middle of a COVID lockdown.
Yeah.
So to be totally isolated and trying to stay sober, I don't know who can do that.
We talk about it almost on every episode because it's such a relevant time in history of what it's done to this community of people, starting with mental health, struggles, and especially alcoholism and addiction, and isolation is the worst fucking thing.
Worst thing you can do.
And breaking routine and structure. I mean, yes, there's guys that have been going to the same AA meeting 3 times a week for 30 years. Like they get up and eat breakfast. I mean, it's a So then to having that taken away is a real, I mean, disaster waiting to happen.
Totally.
And watching someone detox unmedicated, like withdrawal, what could be deadly. He lucky for you guys, it could have been bad, way worse, but to watch that is a traumatic incident. It just in itself, I can't imagine. And I've heard you talk about it, and I think, that's just a brutal weekend.
It was. But you know what? On the second night, he was still so drunk, but, clear-headed enough. And he came to me, and it was in the middle of the night, and I was up trying to make sure he wasn't like trying to sneak vodka or something. And we had the most vulnerable conversation, or moment, I should say, that we ever had before or since. And he said, "I'm so sorry that I'm not the dad you deserve." And it was a genuine apology. And I just hugged him because he's my dad and I love him, period, but he really meant it. He was like still drunk enough to be vulnerable, but like sober enough to not slur his words. I don't know, whatever that sweet spot was, it was like, and he's never said anything like that before or since, even in his final days before he passed away. So I am grateful for that moment and many other moments that we did have together. He had a lot of wonderful qualities, and I miss him all the time. And I talk to him all the time. But I don't miss his addiction. I don't miss that in any way, shape, or form.
I mean, that's are you still writing?
I write every day. Yeah.
Victory's is it going to be a movie or a series?
It's so hard because it's a good question. I don't know what it's going to be.
That scene right there has to be in it. I don't know shit about Hollywood, but like what did Ruth Langmore say? I don't know shit about fuck. That's got to be a scene.
Well, and the thing that I'm always trying to capture in my writing about him is that happened, and it was so deeply profound and meaningful to me. But he was also wearing this oversized t-shirt with the face of a golden retriever on it. And the eyes were right where like his boobs are. And so in the dark, it looked like he just had these giant boobs. It's hard to like describe how the shadows were working, but I'm just like, is there a camera on me now? Can people understand that like I'm having this like incredible moment that I've never had with my dad before, but he is wearing this ridiculous t-shirt that is wild. Like so funny, like laugh out loud funny. You cannot believe this old man is wearing this t-shirt. So I want to capture that. Whatever that is what I'm trying to capture. And it'll probably take me years, but I'm working on it.
Well,
that was him. Like he could like rip your heart out and make you laugh all at the same time.
It's a real fucking gift, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And he was so loved. And he didn't know he was so loved. I mean, for addicts or recovering addicts who are listening, like, I don't know if that's a thing for everybody, but that was the thing for him, was like, no one could convince him how lovable he was. And it's like, Jesus Christ, if you could just feel all of the love coming at you, you'd like put the drink down. But he couldn't,
Yeah, that's interesting.
And I would just be like, Dad, let me love you. Let me love you, please. And he couldn't.
Yeah, I just keep going back to all the trauma that had to block. I don't know. I don't know. I definitely am no clinician.
Are you talking
Right.
about my trauma? I mean,
No, well, your dad's like to not be able to
totally.
feel that
Well,
love. It's
yes.
like just scar
I mean,
tissue, literally
his
and figuratively.
biological father abandoned him, and I mean, there's a lot of trauma from day one. So, hence why he has an Italian last name, because he was
Okay.
adopted. Yeah,
Got it.
But he knew his dad, and his dad, saw him several times in his childhood, and then took off. So, between that, Vietnam, and then getting knocked in the head 100 times doing stunts, like that's what you get.
And then comes Victory, the codependent. That I just...
Right here.
I mean, rightfully so, though. How's that going for you?
I mean, not having him around has certainly given me a chance to breathe and grow. And I would say, successfully cut out all the relationships in my life that I think took advantage of my nature.
Okay.
Because I do love big and I do love hard.
Sure.
And that's one thing that I've told Daniel over the years, like, thank you for letting me love you. Like, thank you for accepting my love. Yeah. So I think that but I mean, I'm pretty well baked. So codependency is like in my DNA,
Yeah.
but I work really hard at, having boundaries, but it's really great when you don't have people in your life that try to test those boundaries and push them all the time.
Sure.
So a lot of it was just kind of creating new relationships and getting rid of the ones that were crossing my boundaries.
Interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of... we could do a whole podcast series on that shit.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't know what codependency was until I met Ashley. You guys are like the codependency sisters.
Yeah. Yeah. Game recognized game. We saw each other in college. We didn't have any words for any of this, but we just knew on a soul level, oh yeah, we're the same. And guess what? We have never, ever, ever taken advantage of each other's natures. We just knew, we just knew.
So it's these two, and then I call her Red, their other Pepperdine friend. She's a redhead, but I made a comment about redheads earlier, but this is just, she's too sweet, and her name's Kelly, but who now has a daughter at Pepperdine to age them. I'm younger.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for that.
So we got to come out and visit. I want to hear a little bit more about, because you haven't, the name of your company. Can you share that with us?
Oh, sure. We are Quantum Spin Studios.
And you have a really cool team.
I do.
I've met, Tanner quite a bit.
Yep.
He's
the best.
Way fucking smart too, this guy.
So
He's
smart.
really smart.
What's he do there?
He's our CEO, and I tell him this all the time. He's the only person I've ever met in my entire life that literally has no trauma.
Wow.
God bless him.
He has no trauma, and he's just kind.
But he doesn't live that way. I mean, a lot of people by default, that are lucky, you can kind of tell. I would have never guessed that about Tanner, because he's super fucking nice.
He has no trauma, and he's extremely humble and understands that everybody else has trauma. And just I've learned so much about communication from Tanner and Mike, my two partners. They were more feminist than I was when we started the company. I was like, dudes, I'm very, very comfortable in the patriarchy. Don't mess with this, please. And they were just like, nope, sorry. And they're just incredibly kind, supportive, wonderful communicators. Yeah.
I've gotten the pleasure of being on some Zooms and talking about this game, and I'm not much of a gamer, but I do know how much fucking money that I spend on these fucking video games with my 11-year-old. So I'm like, I think you guys are onto something here. When does it come out on PS5?
Well, the cool thing about it is, joking aside, the reason why I love this game, because I'm not a gamer either, but I love the model of this game, is because it creates connection. And there's so much loneliness. Like, we're in an actual Surgeon General's loneliness epidemic. And this game is a way to create connection for people who are just lonely and
Completely
not
isolated.
wanting, feeling isolated. And it's a way to like play and have fun, and like you're playing a character, so you don't have to be yourself, and you can work out all kinds of feelings or thoughts, or you can try on different moods or try on different ways of thinking, and you don't have to like do it as yourself.
There's some freedom in that.
So right now it's a tabletop game, and it will be a video game. Is that what I'm hearing?
If all goes to plan, yes.
Probably come out before the new Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, this is.
I got the joke, Jeff.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
I don't get it.
It's okay, Chris. You won it.
Do you get the joke?
Grand
Not
Theft Auto, the newest one. I'm not a gamer either, but I just know it's been supposed to come out, and they keep pushing it. And
Oh,
pushing
really?
It and pushing
Okay.
it. Yeah.
It's like 7 years now.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
The last one came out like 10 years ago.
This is funny. In high school, I used to play it, and I would go pick up Eric from his house and bring him over and get him drunk, and we play Grand Theft Auto. But he blames his heroin addiction on me.
are a gamer.
Fucker.
That makes sense. But
Well, I used to play Bond. I'd just get high as fuck.
N64,
PS2.
Smoke motherfuckers in that. License and Kill.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
I didn't play that. I was Michigan in the complex proximity mines, and then Deadly, and then Perfect Dark came out. It was like Bond, but it's kind of the same kind of shooter game. And then Grand Theft Auto, and then some of the wrestling games were pretty cool, like WCW and W. Buff Bagwell, who's going to come on the podcast.
Yeah.
So, I guess I could be. I mean, I was obsessed with ice hockey, so my whole life. So I would, anytime there was a new EA hockey game out from the original Sega, like I'd get on the list, go get it, and I would skip school for 2 or 3 days, and I would be able to butter my mom up. She'd let me, and I would just fucking play until I was a zombie. And now, God gave me a son that does that to me and drives me fucking nuts. But it is really cool to see the stuff that they're creating, and it still stands out to me that when I think of people in that industry, I just don't think of the Victories and Tanners of the world. One funny coincidence is my cousin's oldest daughter's godmother. Her name's Kara. We're friends, and somehow her and Victory are you can tell on social media, like a mutual friend. I'm like, how the fuck are you guys? And this girl's been in like a Criminal Minds. She's an actress out there, but is from like Chicago, I think, and knew my cousin's wife from
Ohio, I think.
Yeah, Ohio. Yeah, so the Midwest, and
Yeah.
And here I meet Ashley's friend, and she's friends with Kara. So
That's crazy.
Kara could probably play Ash. We'll talk to Daniel about that when we're putting together the script. Maybe Kara could probably be cast as Ash. Is Courtney Love still alive? Because she could probably play my ex.
She is. Does your ex look like she's around 60, 65?
No. I'm thinking of the People Against Larry Flint, Courtney Love.
I loved that movie.
Great film.
Yeah.
Picture, as Daniel calls it.
Great picture. Yeah.
Where's Daniel from?
Tennessee.
My Daniel? Yeah. Knoxville, Tennessee.
Nice.
He's he knows every stat there is to know about every Braves player in history.
Wow.
It's incredible.
Chipper Jones was my man back in the day.
No. Daniel comes through you're gonna hear his like entrance music. He's gonna break through the door. The Chipper. If Viola was a boy, the name might have been Chipper. We have a group text that is every once in a while Daniel and I will sports nerd out, or it can get a little vile, and the girls know when to bow out of the conversation and
mute the conversation for a while.
Chime in. And Ashley cringes on the reg, but
so when we get to the podcast and this TV thing you're doing, we need to figure out who's going to play me. someone handsome.
Yeah. What did you call yourself? Dashingly handsome
Yeah,
earlier?
that's what she called me.
Oh, that's
Didn't you
right.
hear her say that about me?
I did. Those are the exact words I used.
How is your how is your sister and the rest of your family in regards to the relationship with your father, and since he's passed? Are they similar journey?
Probably versions of the same. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my sister and I are very different, so we process differently,
Sure.
but
What
we're
would you
trauma bonded. So
Yeah,
Mm.
right. What would you, if somebody out there is in your shoes and they have a
yeah.
parent that's, what
Mm-hmm.
would you advise them to do?
Oh, parent. I mean, as a mom, having a parent as an addict
Mm-hmm.
is its own special nightmare. Having a child is like, oh, my heart just goes out to anybody who has a child who's struggling with addiction. I feel so unqualified to give advice to a parent. I have a 2-year-old, so
To you, like to somebody that
to
has
the child
yeah.
of it. Okay,
Right,
there we
right.
go. I can do that. You can cut all of that out. I
No,
was, like,
you
looking for the
yeah,
parent.
that raw emotion is enough. I mean that.
Yeah. For me, this doesn't necessarily work for everyone. For me, getting educated about how addiction works, what drugs and alcohol does to the brain,
Mhm.
like scientifically, biologically, how it affects the brain, understanding other people's accounts of addiction was very helpful for me. And like I said, distancing my dad's choices, I say in quotes, because it's both choice and like a compulsion. It helped me feel, at times it helps me feel less rejected. It is, when I was younger, I felt a lot of pressure to like cut my dad off, which was like a thing. Like, cut your parent off. As I got older, was like, well, this is the dad that I got. There is still some good.
Sure.
And I chose to focus on the good and have a lot of boundaries around how much time I spent with him and in what context. And then near the end, you know, he was so far gone. He wasn't even himself anymore. I mean, it wasn't my dad. My dad like died long before my dad died, if that made sense. So I guess advice is just like with an addict, like we're addicted to them. We're addicted to their crazy cycles. And so for me, having community around me that supported me, if you can get into therapy, massively helpful. Whether it's for public display or just for your own processing, writing, massively helpful. But I mean, I can't sugarcoat it. It just fucking sucks.
I think that's probably, that's how you see someone, right? Is that acknowledge that it's fucking horrible.
It's just horrible.
Did Al-Anon, did it help? Was it a good place for you to learn and meet other people that are walking similar paths?
Absolutely. It was really, I never wanted to go to a meeting ever, but once I went, I was like, familiar. I'm so glad I came. I really needed that. It makes you feel less alone because you hear everyone else's stories and you're just like, shit. Yeah. Again, it's like a reminder that like, it's bigger than you. The person you love is not trying to hurt you.
We say often, when we hear some of these horrific stories, we always say, tell me it's not a disease, because there's still people out there that don't think it is. But even though it's scientifically proven that's a disease.
Totally.
I still say it about Jakob, even though he's 8 years sober, when he does something stupid. And
Say what?
And mean. I'm just kidding.
I don't know what you're saying.
But and the reason I ask about Al-Anon is I reference it and recommend it almost every phone call I get that's a parent or a loved one of an addict, a child of,
Right.
to go, because that's the first to go feel seen and learn a little bit. Because and one of the best things you said today is you can learn everything you can intellectually, and it's not going to always connect the dots emotionally. But
no,
it's good to refer back to when you're really in it, and your feelings are taken over, that knowledge is power, and learning that in anything, and like you said, it makes you feel less rejected. That's got to be better than the alternative.
When you're in it and the person is alive, there is that hope. And even though my dad's story didn't turn out how I wanted it to, I think that doesn't have to be the story for everyone. Like there is hope. There is hope that they can make a different choice and get the help that they need, get the support that they need. And that was the most tormenting part. It's like, now it's done. It's over. I still can't believe that's how it ended. I still cannot believe that's how it ended. And I might be in shock for the rest of my life. But it's like, I don't have to hold on to that hope of like every little up and down. And maybe this is the day. Maybe this is the moment. Maybe this is the thing that I just said, or the thing that he just watched, or the thing that's going to turn it. It's like, it's done. And so, for people who are in it, in the thick of it, it's just fucking hard because you have the hope.
I've heard parents that have lost children that would never say it publicly because it's so hard to admit, but that there was a moment of relief, that it's this, because when you were just describing that cycle of hope and letdown, and
yes,
it just sounds fucking exhausting.
It's so exhausting. I mean, after my dad died, I went and got a blood test, and it was like everything was off, and they were like, "Holy shit, you're gonna die!" And then I just spent a year like actually sleeping, not waking up in the middle of the night, checking my phone, panic to see if what happened. Like, and then I went and got a blood test, and was like, everything's fine.
That's interesting.
Like real, the stress,
right?
Of living day to day with an addict and waiting for that text or the phone call or the next drama. It's just like, it literally has a physiological impact on your body and your health.
See what we did to our moms?
Oh yeah, I'm well aware.
Oh,
well aware.
I'm still in denial.
A lot of processing with that woman.
Jacob's mom is a saint angel, and some say that about my mother. She's great.
Yeah, I would.
I love her, especially the day after Mother's Day.
I love
and
that.
This is a tough day. Dead Dad's Club is the name of this episode.
Yeah.
My old man would have fucking loved your dad. I hate to say it.
Oh, they would have loved each other. And then my
right.
dad would do these weird things, like he'd get around like a real Italian person who'd be speaking with an accent, but like an Italian American, like speaking like they're from Brooklyn, and all of a sudden he would start speaking with an accent. We're like,
that's great. I love it.
Just like, when in Rome, let's do it.
I mean, he looked like an OG when I met him at your wedding. That's for sure. And I'll tell you, I don't know, you may say, but he had a fucking smile ear to ear, and I didn't meet any of your past relationships, but Daniel is the man, and I know they weren't.
He loved Daniel. Yeah, he
right.
Didn't like him. He loved Daniel. He really wanted Daniel's. Daniel does not give his approval to those he deems not worthy of his approval, and my dad really wanted Daniel's approval. Yeah,
I can see that from Daniel.
Yeah,
He's so I think your dad was thoroughly, deeply happy.
He was so happy. Yeah. He was also wasted that night.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a version of myself would have been right there with him. But I do remember, so their wedding was at this like beautiful house and outside in LA. And on the way to the wedding, I was blaring Tupac and had a red bandana on. And Ashley's like, you're going to get us.
Yeah.
But it was a nice area. Victory almost got, I mean, they had to evacuate for these last fires. It was fucking bad.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, almost twice, right? You had to leave and then you came back to get, like, they let you come back to get stuff.
Picked up some things and then we left because we had no power for like 6 days.
You guys need to move to St. Louis. We don't deal with that shit.
I know.
Wasn't it charming?
Beyond. I kept saying it's what we live in Montrose, and I kept saying it's what Montrose wants to be.
I mean, I did take her to where the horse is at. I got this little, so Viola got to see all the animals. She loves animals, and I had to drive her like through Sojay and Cahokia to get there. That's when the strip club story came up about her and her producing experience.
That's
I
right.
drove past
Cabaret.
4 of them. Yeah, Diamond, PTs.
You should have gone around the little circle in Centerville.
Yeah,
My son, we went around there the other day, and my son goes, "Christmas lights."
Yeah. Jeff, I'm too triggered by that circle.
I can't wait. I need stories by that.
Yeah, we'll save that for that's what Courtney loved. Victory, thank you for doing this. I wanted to.
Thank you again for having me. It's really good to talk about it. I have not. Yeah, it's a cool context to talk about it, and I hope even if just one person gets a tiny little nugget that is helpful.
If that'll happen, I know for a fact, and I really feel it's a way for your story and your dad's story to help people that are going through it. And I know that we don't talk about it a lot. And I was telling Ash on the way here that, we want to. This is why we're doing this. But it's I don't get any pleasure of like taking you through this fucking hard memory lane. But thanks for being so brave.
Yeah.
And doing
What's
this for
wild
us.
is, of course, it feels like, gosh, I barely scratched the surface, but it's nice to talk about it with people who understand. Thank you for your graciousness.
And here, your dad, you always describe him as like complicated, right? And imperfect. There's times I get mad at him for you. But even from beyond, he's like, God, we got 2 fucking fanboys over here because he was in Pirates of the Caribbean or whatever. Hook and
Disgraceful.
Weekend at Bernie's.
Was he?
Oh yeah, baby.
He did the whole stunt coordinating.
Are you fucking kidding me? Why don't I know this? It's like my favorite movie ever.
Google it.
Is it really?
I
Well,
fucking love Weekend at Bernie's.
know that I got to be on set for Weekend at Bernie's for 2 whole weeks.
Bernie Lomax.
Yeah. I met Bernie Lomax. It was so funny,
Oh, my
Chris.
God.
I'll
then-
leave you with this story about my dad.
And that's the whole Biden presidency was Weekend at Bernie's.
How dare you?
Sorry.
I won't argue with that. Speaking of New York and Italian, I feel like you'll appreciate this. I was in New York City on New Year's Eve. My dad was there for work. I was probably in my late 20s, and it was me and my boyfriend at the time. And my dad was like, when are you flying out? And we were like, we're flying out, after midnight, like tonight, we're going to go party. And then he was like, how are you going to get to the airport? There's going to be no cabs. Like, what are you going to do? And suddenly we're like stressing out, like, cause we were going to a party in Brooklyn and we were flying out. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know, And he's like, I'm going to call Gino Lucci. And
Okay.
he's like, Gino. So Gino Lucci. So
That's
Gino Lucci, who I cannot tell you who this person is, Gino Lucci,
Sure.
organizes a black car with
That
like
is
a
fucking
thug
gangster.
come pick us up. And we were partying in Brooklyn. Happy New Year. After midnight, we get in this Gino Lucci black car, and we drive through the streets of Manhattan, and everybody's trying to hail a cab. There's no cabs.
That
Just
is
make our way right to the
nuts.
airport, fly out.
I mean, that is so baller. Like the name Gino Lucci.
Gino Lucci, I've never forgotten it, and I don't know to this day who Gino Lucci is
No,
or how
it's
he got
to
the
be.
black car.
Can he be a character in me and Daniel's work?
Absolutely,
All right,
absolutely.
maybe the fucking main character.
But you can
Tony
see
Soprano
how there
meets
was
Gino
like
Lucci.
a mythos.
Let me call Gino
around-
Lucci.
Gino Lucci, call Gino, and I'm like, where's? Okay, I'm not even gonna say anything about the accent. Great, call Gino Lucci.
That's incredible. I'm gonna be so we're going to New York in 3 weeks. I'm gonna be we're fucking calling Gino.
He's still in
I
my
love
phone.
it.
I still have him. You could call him, see if he's
Oh,
still
man.
alive.
That's
Anyways,
incredible.
that was my dad. Yeah, thanks for
Well,
listening.
Thank you for sharing so much.
And I'm actually getting all this extra time. I was expecting them to bust through the door, but they're not.
I was gonna talk a little Braves baseball here with Daniel, and then say hi to my sweet Viola. We still have our apple juice in our fridge for next visit.
That's so.
Ashley won't throw out the apple juice because she misses Viola so much. She's the
So
sweetest,
sweet.
most photogenic kid on the planet. I know everybody says that, but this is legit. I'll show you pictures. She's
She,
incredible.
totally out of the blue the other day, Chris. She just said, "I want to ride Serenity Prayer."
That's, my
Oh, that's the name of the
pony.
horse. Yeah.
Yep, she's sweet.
I said,
Oh, what a
"Okay,
doll.
I will let Chris know. I don't know that she's rideable at this time, but I will let Chris
Well,
know."
You tell her I said hi, and she can ride Serenity anytime she wants, and we will. We're doing New York early June, and then we're planning a trip out. So
Oh,
keep you
great!
posted. Tell
Okay.
Tanner I said hi, and
I
we
will.
we have a full rehab here of people that are ready to play some tabletop role playing games and
Is that
Well,
name
we're excited.
public yet?
World of Vesser.
World of Vesser.
Oops, can I say that? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
Yeah.
There's a,
Is it out? Like, can you buy it?
not
You
yet.
can't
right?
buy it yet. No,
Got it.
but you can play it if that makes sense. We just have to organize getting y'all to play. Okay.
Well, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Love you to
have
death.
me back.
All right.
Okay. Love you. Bye.
Take care. Well, everyone, thanks for listening. Panos Anonymous, episode 17. Special people to me. I'm sure you'll relate to this story, and we'll pray for healing because that's what we need. And a lot of people's loved ones that are struggling. Nobody's all good and all bad. So I think the way she describes the complicated nature of her relationship with her father, it's home, and it's pretty fucking accurate. So God bless everyone, and as always, let us pray.